evening, friends! See, I know that music so well now. Good evening and welcome to Littleport Christian Spiritualists. It is a pleasure to welcome you all here tonight to witness the proof and the truth that life is indeed eternal. And the fact that I still have my own teeth, so I can actually still say that sentence without tripping it up. Because I've nearly slipped over it a few times these last few months. But it is indeed a pleasure to welcome everyone here. And of course, everyone at home who is not watching The Dragon's Den or The Apprentice and are going to watch it on catch-up like me after the service. Aren't you? Well done. Now, friends, also, thank you to everyone at home for the feedback regarding this here thing. It will continue. So everyone at home can hear the mediumship and see what's going on, and not get the echo and not the crackle fizz of my old microphone that used to stand here, as good as it was. So thank you for staying. And of course, to all of our friends here who come in week after week to support this church, because without you, the doors would not be open. But of course, we do open the doors each. Doesn't always come back every week, but comes back as soon as they can because of their bookings. And one such individual is serving us tonight. And that individual deserves, nay, requires, a proper, big and bold, because I know how much it annoys him, little welcome. Give a big Littleport welcome, John Ennis! And his friends and helpers. That's how I get away with it. So, friends, thank you all for coming, and do send your love to John throughout the evening. And so, let us begin in traditional spiritual fashion by opening this service in prayer. As we say, Great Spirit, Father, Mother God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together to unite and witness your truth, that there is indeed a world beyond this one, that life does go on, and that we are all united in the love and compassion of the summerland, that realm of light where no shadows fall. As we place this service in your care and keeping, we ask that the veil be lifted and that the light of your world shine forth upon all those here, those watching, and those that will watch, that they may witness life is indeed eternal. And as we continue the work, we make a statement as ever, that everything is truth and in light. Amen. Amen. Well, friends, you'd be forgiven for expecting some cup address tonight. Joke relating to the storm this week, isn't it? I had to get it in again. Because when we are in and around a world, we are impacted and affected by everything that goes on. Be that the weather, be that life, be that our friends and family, everything that goes on around us impacts, affects, and influences us. For example, not a lot of people know this, but at one point in time, I was actually training to be a drama teacher. Shock horror, I know. But one of the things that they taught you when you first started learning to teach is if there is a storm, whilst you are trying to do a lesson, abandon the plan, because it ain't going to happen. Because when we are young, we are influenced by the weather. A storm, the pressure change, it all affects the physical brain functions, and everyone just goes giddy and nuts. Yes, the internet is working. Also, if you think about it, that age-old phrase, "what a lunatic," is literally a tick of the moon. When there's a full moon, people start to behave a little bit peculiar. Now, I'm not saying that I get extra specially hairy and grow teeth, although some people in this building might say that I do, don't you, Mother? But the point is, the world around us impacts us. And of course, all those events that we see portrayed across the globe in the news are bound to influence and impact us. And it's not just because of the physical side of it, but the emotional side too. Because we care, because we're interested, because we're concerned with that love with the world. And sometimes it can be particularly frustrating when the world cannot see the simple truth that we are one. There is an old saying, the meek shall inherit the earth. Here's another saying, the higher you rise, the harder you fall. Here's another saying, quote courtesy of Benidorm, the higher up the tree you get, the more people can see your arse. The point is this. Those who have power, who seek power, who desire power, cleave to it, drive for it, seek it, and then they want to cling to it. And then we disagree with them. They get scrappy. And we can see that going on in the world right now. But let's go back to that first and most important one. The meek shall inherit the earth. What does that actually mean? In simple terms, it says, just be nice and everything will be all right. But there's, of course, a lot deeper meaning to that too. When you look at what this world is going through, and let's be honest and be frank and fair, has always been going through. The names and the places change, but the battle remains the same. When you look and see all this going on, this cleaving for power, this seeking for power, you just got to sit there and think, why? Because if you show respect and love and kindness and openness, everyone will gravitate towards you. It's when you show aggression, the baring of teeth, that striving for power, no matter what you think that right reason is for, it will always come back and bite you on the bottom. And the reason it are not acting out of human compassion. It's the one thing that classifies us as a singular individual race. When people talk, when people make comments, human compassion. Where's your humanity? It's the one thing that should unite every on this planet. But unfortunately, there are those who seek to control. In this way of life, there's one thing I've noticed over the years. There's the light areas, there's the dark areas, and then there's the grey areas. And what we try to do to be kind and to be nice is all the things that we're not comfortable with, all the things that we struggle with, all the things that we think aren't particularly great, instead of designating as a dark area, shift it into a grey area and say, oh, well, there's going to be a reason for that. Let's be nice about it. Principle number 5, personal responsibility. We can no longer afford to put that which belongs in the dark areas into the grey areas. There are grey areas, but there are things that are lumped in with them that don't belong there. If it is about control, if it is about hate, if it is about power, it doesn't belong in the grey areas. It belongs in that area that we do not speak of. But that's the point we should speak of. We should raise our voices and be heard. and say, enough. This is not kind. I always like to go by the desiderata principle. Go placidly amidst the noise and haste, and know what peace there may be in silence. But it also says, speak your truth clearly, patiently. We must speak our truths every single day. And if we struggle with something, we should say so. If we are having difficulty with something, we should say so. And if we designate something as wrong, we should have the courage of our convictions to politely and calmly state our case so that the truth is at least where it needs to be. Because so long as we look the other way, where the dark areas exist, the dark areas will continue and maybe even grow. Speak clearly, calmly, politely, but never be afraid to speak your truth, because that is what being spiritual is about. It's not about rolling over. It's not about being foolish. It's not about being cautious. It's about being honest. The saying is, the meek shall inherit the earth, not weak. Being meek is not weak. Being meek is polite, is kind, is warm, is loving, is saying, yes, I disagree with what you've just done, but I will always be here for you, to welcome you back, because all should be welcome. And if people realize, be awarded, rewarded, applauded, not constantly remember the mistakes of their past. That's the hardest part of spiritualism that people still struggle with. But it is an essential, integral part of who we are. As Reverend Allen would put it, forgiveness is everything. We can speak our truths and still be open to forgive, because that's the whole point of a peace on earth. That's the whole point of raising the vibrations of this physical existence, so that literally all there is on the news is moaning about the British weather. Wouldn't that be wonderful? It really, really would. But forget to speak our truths. Be brave enough, be strong enough, be bold enough to tell people, I'm sorry, I disagree with that. Let's talk. Because opening a dialogue is much better than opening anything else. This world's seen enough of that, and it has to stop. The meek shall inherit the earth. And that is a lesson that those in politics and those in power all around the world in every walk of life need to learn. And if it's us that needs to teach that lesson, to share that lesson, to be guiding lights by example and deed, then so be it. Let's get on with it. Speaking of which, thank you for listening, and God bless you all. And so now, friends, let's see if the spirit realms are tying things in as they normally do. I have many witnesses who heard the conversation with Reverend Allen today. I've picked a reading, he says. I'm not going to tell you what it's called, and I'm not going to tell you what's in it. All I'll say is I think it's a bit deep. So let's see if the depth and breadth of the world of spirit shines forth as we say those magical words each week. Reverend Allen, are you there?
Indeed I am. Good evening, Littleport. Good evening, everybody on Facebook and Twitter and wherever else we're broadcasting. I was drawn to this reading this morning by my guides, and as many of you know, I do not pick these readings myself. I am guided to them. And to be quite honest with you, when I saw this, I thought, what? but your address just made sense of the whole thing.
Oh, bless you.
Now, I hope that you all get out of it what I've got out of it, because it is deep. It does make you think, and so be it. I can't give a person that wrote it because I don't have it. In the sphere of time, heaven and earth shall become the merciless province of mortal discernment. The star will fall, the moon refuses to shine. Reflections of grandeur in its ravenous fallacies, by fate, lies sits upon acid tongues. Destiny's injustices shall be a benediction of our DNA scrolls, salvage of hearts, troubled minds, ownership of sacred temples. Thy free will falls under the guidance of the skies. Rain falls to quiche the intellect will be famished. The key to life expectancy lies, uniquely coded unto its own. Royalty among no other but self. As you walk and stand upright. Thank you.
Wow. That could easily have been a segment of Tennyson's Ulysses. That was such eloquent beauty, its painting of an image, and yet such open dialogue and demonstration of exactly the point that Spirit's making. Alan and your guides, thank you so much for bringing that, and just wow. I think the phrase is I'm befuddled. Wow, thank you. And yes, I think that probably ties in more than most over the recent weeks. That's wonderful. Thank you, Alan. And quite right. And now I'm sure that you will, of course, share that with everyone who wants to read.
I will try my hardest to get it posted.
If not, just send me a picture. I'll type it up for you.
Yeah, I do struggle to get the readings across. I've changed my printer. At one time, my printer, I used to print them off, and it sent them. I could send it back to my computer. This one,
Yeah.
my new one, I can't.
Well, take a photo, send it to me, and because I've got software. Talk amongst yourselves, everybody. Send it to me, because I've got an app on my phone that will read text in photos, convert it to computer text.
I will try and post it tomorrow. If I can't, I will send it across by
Fabulous.
one means or another.
Wonderful, wonderful. Good evening, Jeanette, by the way. Just saw your name pop up. So yes, thank you, Alan. God bless you, and we will see you later on. Brilliant. God bless you, my friend.
Good night, everybody.
Bless him. Wonderful. That was just stunning. Oh, I love it when they do that. Well, friends, now is the time where we send out our healing thoughts to all those who are sick and suffering and in need of comfort. Tonight, please include the name Alison in your list, and Paul, because they are both very much in need. So friends, also consider those that you know who are in need of healing, those that are close to your hearts, those that have an impact on your life that make you sing with joy. Let their hearts be filled with the joy and the light of healing and that which it can bring. So let's join together as we always do and begin with the healing prayer, and after the music and the candles, end with Amen, as we say, Great Spirit, Father, Mother God, here we bring unto you all those who are sick and suffering and in need of comfort, that it may please thee to heal them. Those who are sick and suffering in the need of the heart, the mind, and the soul, and the body. And of course, Great Spirits. We ask for those that we know, those we do not know, and those who have no one to ask for them. We ask for them now. Amen.
Amen.
Do you know, it's taken me nearly a service and a half to realise that now we've got this, I don't have to stand there anymore, I can wander about. But nonetheless, my time of wandering is coming to an end. About earlier than I'm used to as well. I'm getting shorter at it. It's wonderful. All the more messages from the wonderful world of spirit, guides of John and John himself. So I'm shortly going to hand over this service to John. You'll know when that time comes because I'll hand him the microphone because we've only got that's how it works, sorry. But of course, should John come to you, answer in a clear voice, yes, no, don't know. It's not so much that the spirit world needs to hear it, but we're all nosing and we want to know what's going on. But of course, send love to John as he does the work of spirit. And so, friends, give a proper Littleport welcome whilst we do the handover to our friend. It's John Ennis!
Right, there we go. I'm wide for sound. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be back with you all. For those of you who are at home, we have got a technical wizard on tonight. So if you start hearing voices before I speak, please let us know and I'll take the microphone off. Because I've got a habit with microphones. Microphones picks up what spirit are telling me before they actually tell me. So we might be getting weird echoes, but the technical man's there. So if you're hearing things that you're not supposed to hear, let him know and I'll take the microphone off. I'll give it back to Nick and he can whisper sweet nothings to you all. Has anything changed since the last time I was here? No, I'm a bit older, I'm a bit fatter and I'm a bit bolder, but apart from that, everything's still exactly the same. All I ask is, please just think outside of the box, because the people who come through may not be the people you're expecting to come through. And I'll be honest with you, I can't bring anybody through. Spirit bring themselves through, and I just pass on the messages. So if you wanted your mum or your dad, and it's your brother or your sisters or your next door neighbour, tough, I can't help it. They're the ones that come through. So we'll just take it from there and we'll see what happens. As I say, normally I know who I'm going to, so we'll see where we're going. You know, okay, you don't want to go to her yet. Okay. Right, okay, I'll go to the gentleman there, sir, with the bluey, flecky top on. Yeah, you're the only gentleman over that side. He's a plain blue. And as I'm with you, sir, I've got a gentleman coming in for you. Now, as this gentleman comes in, I feel I'm very stockily built with this gentleman. And I also feel I'm quite an upright man. I'm 5'8". I'm going to say he's about 5'9", maybe 5'10". And he's a very strong man as well. He's also saying he doesn't actually believe that he's here tonight. And I'm going, why? He says, well, when I was down there, he says it was a load of mumbo jumbo. He says, but since I've been up here, he says it's completely different. But he's so pleased to see you. And he's also saying as well that because he's here tonight, he's here to give you the respect that you deserve. He says, and he's also here to give you a lot of strength as well. He's saying he wasn't always
the most support. He wasn't always as supportive as he could have been around you. And he says, the man you are today, he says, you made yourself. And he said, you're a very strong man. He says, and you're a very quiet man. But he's very, very proud to know you. And he just wants you to carry on achieving and carry on achieving. He's also saying as well about work. I don't need to know if you're working or not, but if you are working, he's saying it's time to start moving up the ladder. He says, you can see where people are going wrong. He says, you've had a good grounding. You've got all the foundation stones in place. So he says, now's the time for you to start making your mark. Also as well, he's saying, if in future you wish to branch out on your own, he says, you will make a success of it. But he's saying, just remember, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Always keep a little bit back for yourselves. But he's saying, you're going to go a long way. And he says, you've got nothing to prove to anybody. He says, in fact, he says, you're too busy proving things to yourself all the time. He says, you don't need to prove anything to anybody. There is a lady who comes in as well for you. This lady's about 5'3", 5'4". I do see her in her younger days, and she's quite a rounded lady, and she's quite a chatty lady, and she likes a good laugh and a good joke, and she's very good in the kitchen. But she's also making me very aware now that I'm getting very slow with my words. My body's not working the way it should do. The weight is actually falling off me quite rapidly. And she's quite a fragile lady when she passes. And she says that's all she wants to talk about, that. Because she's saying, you know, and the family know. And I know this lady very much family. And she's saying, you've got two families. She's saying, you've got your birth family, but then you've got the family that you've made yourself. And she says, they're the ones that's important to you. She understands about the breakages in the birth family, and she's saying, you've done nothing wrong, so you don't need to blame yourself. He says, you've done everything you can to keep people together, but they're the ones that have put the wedges in place. But she's saying, you've got such a good support network around you. And she's saying, you can, no matter what you put your mind to, she says, you can achieve greatness. Do I have to give him it? Oh. My favourite. I've got to give you a rhubarb crumble. Smile on his face. Can I have a taste? Oh, and it's sour as well, so you've got to sprinkle the sugar on yourself. So I need to give you this rhubarb crumble and custard. She's saying, if you're really good, she says, I'll let you have some American cream soda as well. He's racking his brains now, but he's got it. Yeah, so she says on about American cream soda. So I'm going to leave all her love with you, and yeah, I'll leave him the rhubarb crumble as well. Leave all her love and the rhubarb crumble with you, and the gentleman a lot of respect, but very, very proud to know you. And I'll leave all that with you and say thank you very much. Can I go to the lady with the waistcoat on, please? As I'm with, there is a gentleman here, but I need to bring. I've got two ladies stepping forward. The first lady, she's about 5'1", 5'2". She's quite a slender lady as I see her. I am very, very aware with this lady that her hair is and always was quite thick, although in later years it did thin out a little bit. I do see a lot of the time that she's got older hair. Sometimes as a youngster it was quite long and nearly down to her. But she's saying it gave her headaches, so she always neat and tidy. And this lady's saying as well that, okay, she liked to have a tidy house, and she says, you like having a tidy house. And she says, and there's nothing wrong with that. The men need to out, she says, they always make the place untidy. She says, it doesn't matter where they sit. She says, there's newspapers and crumbs and mugs, and they're just all sat there. It makes them odds what you do. She says, men are worse than children. She said, at least you can shout at children. Men just go, well, so what? But she's saying, she comes in around you, as I say, and she does come in with a lot of love. She's also saying as well, she says, you're not on your own. You're not on. She says, we're here. So making me very aware that you've been asking for help and guidance. She says, we're giving you it. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Well, you've asked for it. We've given you it, so you need to do it. So she says, come on. You know what needs doing. She says, no more slacking. The old saying, she says, never put off till tomorrow what you do today. Tomorrow's going to bring. But then as she says, I'm upstairs, she says, no, I'm still waiting for tomorrow to come, because when I wake up, it's today. So where's tomorrow gone? So she's saying, come on, get with it. The other lady who comes in is a little bit taller than the first lady. She's about 5'4", 5'5", quite rounded in the face. She's quite rounded in the body. She's got silvery hair. Yes, it is silvery grey hair, because it's all right. I thought it was white, but she's saying silvery grey. And this lovely sense of humour. I've got a tightness in the chest, however. I've had some and my feet started to swell up in my shoes, which also shows me that she had problems with her feet and her lower leg. She said, good moaning about it, dear. Nobody ever takes a blind bit of that. She says, and they always want the dinner put in on the table, so she says, you just get on with it. She says, would I be any longer if I'd gone to... No. She says, because time's up, your time's up, there's nothing you can do about it. She wants to thank you for always being there, and she wants to thank you for always being very supportive. And she's also saying as well, and the ladies ahead, they're saying you're also very supportive of family. I want to say family, but also family side as well. But she says you're always supportive of these ones, but they're not always supportive of you. She says a lot of to do with issues on your own rather than having the support that you should have had. But she says, okay, she said they don't come. She says because you are very, very special, and you are very, very special. The gentleman who just wants to pop in as well comes in. He's about 5'6", rounded in the face. Hair in on the top. I do see flecks of grey alongside. I know I want to say he had sideburns as well. He had a better moustache than I did. But a really, really earth man. I do feel with this gentleman, and he says he told everybody that he'd stop smoking, but he carried on smoking, saying, God, he says, smoking, he says, was terrible. I went, why? He says, because they stopped selling plain cigarettes. He says, so I had to buy the cheap ones and break the tips off them. And the trouble was, they were only quarter the size they should have been. But a lovely, lovely sense of humour with this man. I do feel with this gentleman, as much as he loved his food, he struggled to eat good meals in later life. Also as well, he said he used to go to the doctors, but he because he says on the NHS. But this gentleman just wants to put his, and he does come in with a lot of strength and a lot of support for you. And he's saying, okay, he says, if the sleepless nights carry on, then go and talk to somebody about it. Because for a lady who needs to have her sleep. He's on about you getting, don't wear her glasses, he says, that's her own fault. So obviously you're supposed to wear glasses, he says, but you don't like wearing them. He says, you should wear your glasses. He says, that will stop the bad heads and stop your eyes getting so tired. But as I say, there is a lot of love from him. And he's also saying as well, He says, because he loves to see you with that smile on your face. He says, it's always stood you in good stead. I don't know what the changes are that you've been running through your head. Bring them out in the open. He says, go for it. And he says, you know what you want. He says, you've worked out everything. Just to go for it. So I'm going to leave all his love, the two ladies' love, and a lot of support. Also, a lot of strength coming to you as well. Right, okay, it's all right. Nick said something earlier about teeth. I haven't got teeth, making me say this. If you, she understands it. They always give me it because they know I can't pronounce it. So I've got. Oh, that's better. I've got to give you Chrysanthemum. I've also got to give you yellow roses, and I've also. And I'm going to leave all their love and support with you and say thank you very much. Can I go to the lady with the green coat on, please? As I'm with you, I've got to bring this gentleman through for you first, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to move on. Now, as this gentleman comes in, I've got a real tightness in the centre of my chest with him, but I've also got problems down in the stomach area with him as well. And he's got tears in his eyes. He's going, I didn't want it to go. I didn't want to go like this, and I didn't want it to happen like this. He says, but there was nothing anybody could do about it. He says, would it have been different if I hadn't been so stubborn and headstrong? He says, probably not. He says, because it was too late anyway. But he's coming in around you because he wants to say that he's sorry. He's sorry. He says, because he left everything in such a mess. But more importantly, he just wants to put his arms around you and say, oh, I do love you. He says, I've always loved you. He says, us two had something very, very special. And he says, nobody can ever take that away from us. But at the same time, he says, you can't be a hermit. So he says, you need to move on. And he says, he will always be here. He will always be your support. You will never forget him, but you need to get out there and start living again. He says, and boy, you've got a lot of living to catch up on. Okay. He says, you're like a nun in a convent. He says, you've locked yourself away. He says, and I can't remember how long for. I'm not singing to you because I've got Julie Andrews now singing songs from The Sound of Music. When she took herself away and that. And he says, that's you. He says, you've locked yourself away. He says, you need to get out. And when he says you need to get out, he says, I don't mean just coming here on a Thursday and once a week doing your shopping. He says, get out and about every day. Start enjoying life. Start doing what you want to do. Okay, he's saying if you want to have the tattoo done, you can have the tattoo done. He says, but why do you want a tattoo with his name on it? He says, because you might meet somebody else. He says, but if you have the tattoo with the picture on, he says, fine, not a problem. He says, but I'll help you out here. He says, above the knee and above the elbow, because you get embarrassed very easily. And come the summer, you'll be going, oh, I can't wear a short skirt or my shorts. I can't wear a blouse because I've got, why did I have it done in the first place? He says, then you go into hibernation mode again. So he's going, just think about it. But he understands why you want a tattoo with a name. He also understands why you want a tattoo with a picture. Oh, okay then. He says he knows the money will run to it. He says, have them both done. He says, if you can't make your mind up. So, but he is coming in. The mood around him is lightning and lightning and lightning all the time. He's letting go. He's had to let go of his emotions because he's had them locked up for too long. But he's saying you need to let go of your emotions as well. He says, because you tell everybody, yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right. He says, but no, you're not. He says, you don't even let your emotions out when you're on your own. He says, so let them emotions out. He says, he says, he knows you will succeed. Oh, okay, right. So whatever you've got going through your head, yes, it will be a success. Only if you stop talking yourself out of it. He says, because you talk yourself out of everything. So he says, come on, go for it. And it is him that does be pushing you. He's telling me to say to you, Old Spice aftershave. So when you get the smell of that, you know that he's there. He's also telling me as well about cigars. Now, I'm not saying he smoked a cigar, but there's somebody in spirit who would have smoked a cigar. And this gentleman does be around you also. And he's here giving you a lot of strength and support. And he's telling me he was in your kitchen yesterday. And yes, you did smell the smoke as much as you say you didn't. He says, yes, she did, because she was like that. I'm not saying you burnt what was ever in the oven, but he's just on about cigars. But this gentleman does be around you also. And he's here giving you a lot of strength. And, all right, the gentleman's just come in and he's gone, look, nice and peaceful and quiet till he turned up. He says, he's come up here. He says, guys, it's like being at a football match. He says, it's shouting and bawling all the time. He says, he wants to go for a drink. He wants his food on the table. He says, there's no pleasing him. But he says, we're looking after him for you. There is a lady who comes in as well. This lady, as she comes in, she's about 5'6", 5'7". She's quite a slender lady, as I see her. Her hair has got a parting on the left-hand side. Well, between the left and the middle. And this, okay, I got it. This lady never needed to wear makeup because she says, I was good looking enough. She says, and they always used to say I had porcelain skin. And she says, I've still got porcelain skin. She says, I only put makeup on once. She says, and I come out in a rash. She says, so I chucked it all away and I didn't bother. And she's just making me laugh now because she's saying after she'd passed the spirit and people were going through handbags and sorting bits and pieces out, she says she found the lippy that I bought when I was about 16 years old. She says, and it still looked brand new. She says, I think I'd only worn it a couple of times. But this lady comes in and she says, yes, you've had challenges to face. She says, but look at you. You're here. You've got through it. She says, and you continue to get through it. She's also saying as well, please don't lock your friends out. Your friends have been very supportive of you and they want to help you in any way they can, but they will not interfere. So you need to say to them, hi, I'm here. I need some help. And let them help you. She's also saying as well that family are never really sure how to take you, because you've always been the strong one. You've always been the organizer. You've always been the one who tells everybody what they've got to do and what they've not got to do. And when you're down, they also go, ooh, what am I supposed to do next? Do we put our arms around her and say everything will be all right? Do we turn her back and walk away and let her get on with it? But she's saying, slowly but surely, they'll all come back into your life again. But she says, how close you in is up to you. But she's saying, there's a couple of little obstacles in front of you, but what you've gone through over the last 18 months, she says, you won't notice them. She says, you'll just take it in your stride. Okay, right. And she says, can you... She says, and more proper meals. And she said, and you need to have breakfast. But breakfast is supposed to be between 6 and 9 in the morning, not 11:30 to 1:30 at lunchtime, or whenever you remember, at tea time or at 9 o'clock at night. So she's saying, come on. She says, you've got, like the gentleman said, you've got a lot of living to do. And you need to start getting out there again and circulating again. And be proud of who you are, be proud of what you've achieved, and be proud of where you're going. So from them all, they're giving you that strength, they're giving you that support and that love. Okay, I know I've got to give you daffodils, but I know daffodils were very special to a lady in spirit, but they've also got to give them to you for new beginnings. And you're the only one who can make these beginnings happen. They're all there, and you know they're there, but you're a little bit afraid of getting out there. She says, come on, you can do it. She says, we'll be there, we'll hold your hand. She says, there's nothing to worry about. So I'm going to leave all their love, strength and support with you. I thank you very much. Can I go to the gentleman there, sir, please, in the check shirt? As I'm with you, sir, I have got two gentlemen coming in. Now, the first gentleman, as he comes in, he's about 5'8" in height, so very similar to me, quite similar in build, although he told me his belly is a little bit bigger than mine is. But he said he liked food. I know with this gentleman he did work very, very throughout his life, but he's saying he had a lot of plans for later in life. He says, but fortunately, he says, nobody told me body that I was to keep going. I'm not saying, but he's saying it started running out on him. So much so that I know with this gentleman, there's nothing wrong with me. That it's the way to show me that this gentleman would have been in a hospital environment and either have a mask over his face to help with his breathing, or he had tubes up his nose. He's also got a really smart. I want the best of patients. He says, and I knew. He says, I knew, and the rest of the family knew, that once I went in there, I wouldn't be coming home again. But he says, you have to go in. He says, family had done everything that they could do. He says, he's heard others say, you should have done this and you should have done that. He said, it wouldn't have made any difference. He says, I'd have just been under the feet for a couple more days. He says, it wouldn't have changed the outcome. He says, it's life, he says, and it swings and roundabouts, and you have to make the most of every bit of it. And he's around you because he's saying, you've all, from a very young age to today, always been a free spirit. You've always done things your way. I'm not saying you've been naughty or anything like that, but your most favourite word was, no, I'm not doing that. Because everything had to be done your way, at your time, and at your speed. And he says, oh, right, a lot of people didn't like it, a lot of people didn't understand it. He says, but it's got you through life. He says, and it will continue to get you through life. And he says, you need to be very proud of who you are. Now, although you're a very outgoing gentleman and you very much take each day as it comes, you don't always trust yourself. And because you don't always trust yourself, you find it hard to trust others. And he says, there's nothing wrong with that. He understands that your trust has been broken in the past, and it's been broken quite badly in the past. And he says, but slowly but surely, he says, you're getting over it. Fine. He says, but you're getting over it, and you'll continue to get over it. The other gentleman who comes in now, he's about 5'9", 5'10". He's quite stocky. Aware of my voice changing, so I know he's got a very deep voice, and he would deep voice. He's finances around you at the minute, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. It's upwards. So from where you are now, you'll never go. And is this not working? No. Oh, this. Yeah. So where your finances are now will never be any worse than they are today. It's just upwards. They're saying you've been very shrewd with your finances. I don't know if it's you or the gentleman who's controlling the purse strings at times, but they're saying it works. It works. But right, they're on about a daughter. So I don't know if you've got a daughter or if it's a daughter-in-law or a granddaughter, but they're on about this daughter. And they're just saying she's a law unto herself, that one, but she'll go a long way in life. And she's not afraid at times who she upsets. She doesn't go out intentionally upsetting people, but if she needs to tread on people's toes to get to where she needs to be, then she'll do it. So she says, you don't need to worry. She says, you've given them the strength and the courage to stand on their own 2 feet. And that's what life is all about. So it's all about you now looking forwards and doing what you can do best for yourselves. And they're saying you need you time. You time. I do need to give you, for whatever reason, I need to give you Liverpool. So I don't know if you've had relatives up there or if you've been to Liverpool, but I need to give you Liverpool for whatever reason. And I also need to give you Fort William. Now, normally Fort William, unless you're Scottish, I'm going to say is perhaps a holiday destination for you. But there's lots of places in Scotland you can visit before you get to Fort William. But I do need to give you Fort William. And they're saying you need to get away this summer for a break. You need to recharge those batteries. And also, I've got to say they're on about a wedding. So I don't know if you've got a wedding coming up in the near future. It could be family, it could be friend, I don't know. But they're on about a wedding and they're saying, yes, you've got to go. And yes, you will need to book in somewhere for the night, because otherwise you can't let your hair down and enjoy yourselves. Also as well, they're bringing a cake in. So there's either been a birthday or an anniversary down here or upstairs in the last 2 weeks or in the next 2 weeks. So they're bringing a cake in for you. The ladies are just showing me a photograph album that's... Right. I've got 2 photograph albums. I've got one with a red cover and one with a dark brown cover with like little gold piping around it. And the dark brown one has got a lot of black and white photos in. The red one has got some black and white, but some colour. The only thing is some of them are Polaroids and the colour is starting to fade on them. But she says the memories are still there. She says, and that's what's important, is having those memories. There is a gentleman who quickly just wants to be remembered to you. He's only a short man, 5'5", 5'6". He would always wear a shirt. If he was going out, he would always wear a tie as well. He's telling me he liked to wear cardigans around the house, but the only thing was the cardigans were always too big for him, but he was comfortable in it. And with this gentleman, he was just like the strong, silent type. He was always there in the background, and if anybody asked for his advice, he would be able to give them the advice. And he said, he always said, you'll never miss me until you need me. He says, and there was a discussion going on. A short while after he passed, there was a discussion going on, and somebody went, oh, well, he's not here anymore. So he had a little chuckle to himself as well. So him and the 2 ladies just wrap their arms around you, give you that love, give you that strength and support, and I'll leave all that one with you as well. Can I go to the gentleman there, sir, please? As I'm with you, I've got a gentleman coming in. Now, he's telling me he's a father figure, but I don't want to say it's dad. I want to say more granddad. And he's a very, very strong man. He's a very tall man, and he's a very upright man as well. Although he is showing me now, and he's making me bend forward, so I know in later years, as he's saying, he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. But it was just life took its toll on him, and he's quite rounded, and he's telling me he's a bit arthritic around the knees as well, because well, that's what my dad used to do. Right, it's as if he used to get cramps, and he'd be sat there watching the telly, and then all of a sudden be on the floor, and he would go, what? And he said, oh, my leg's gone to sleep again, and that's how he used to try and get it back. Also with this gentleman as well, he's telling me he was good at crosswords, but what nobody seemed to realise was he always had the answer, and he was doing the crossword from the day before because he had all the answers for them. So he's saying nobody wised up to it, or if they did, they were kind enough not to say anything to him. But with this gentleman, he comes in around you because he's saying you are more like him than anybody else in the family. He says you're very shrewd with money. He says, but you're also very shrewd with your mouth as well. He says you only say the bare minimum. He says unless you're in a large group that you feel very, very comfortable with, he says, and then your guard starts to come down a little bit. But he's saying you've got such a fantastic network of people around you. He said, and you, as much as you support them, they all support you. And he says it took you a long time to trust them, but when you did, you went, God, look at all these years I've wasted. But you've more than made up for it. And he says, you're going to carry on making up for it. He's put his hand out now and he's helping a lady come in. And as this lady comes in, it's quite a tallish lady. I'm going to say 5'6", 5'7", but I'm going to say she's actually taller than me because her hair comes forward and it's flipped backwards. If I had some hair, I might just be about the same height as her, but she's got a full head of hair. With this lady as well, I've got very, very soft hands with her, but she's got very long fingers. It's all right, she's making me look at her feet. She's going, I have big feet as well, you know. She says, most women my age are only a size 4 or a size 5. She says, I was at least a 7, sometimes an 8. She says, and when I got older, she says, I couldn't find no wide-fitting shoes. She says, there were all these little narrow things. She says, it's not that I was overweight. She's but my feet went from being like that to like that. So she says, I had to make do with them terrible things that got elastic bands over the top of them. She says, or else sandals or my slippers. She says, but I was always comfortable in my slippers anyway. But this lady does come through with a lot of love for you. And there's also a lot of guidance coming to you as well from her. And she's very, very upright, this lady. I want to say she's a pillar of the community, but she was also a pillar of the family as well. She was held in very high regard by the family and loved by all of the family. But she was also very well respected and loved in the wider community because she did so much for them as well as the family. And she's saying at times, yes, she was a fool to herself because she should have slowed down, but she didn't. And she says, the one time I did slow down, she says, the battery ran out. She says, and I was just gone. But she says, that was a blessing in disguise because she didn't want to drag on and be a burden to anybody. And she says, you've still got a lot of living to do. She says, you've still got a lot of ideas and you've still got a lot of plans. So she says, yes, you go for it. This may be something that you were thinking about 18 months, 2 years ago, but I do need to give you a set of keys to a newer property. But you don't have to go, it's a choice. But it will be a very hard choice because friends, family, to maybe strangers, what do I do? So it's a balancing act. But she's saying you'll make the right choices. But what's important is about putting you first, because you've got to do what's right for you. You can't please everybody. So the only person you can please is yourself. And as long as you please yourself, you'll overcome it. So I'm going to leave all their love and strength and say thank you very much. Can I come to you, sir, please? As I'm with you, I don't know if this is this lady's name or if she's just given me it or if she's just messing me about. Because this lady's only about 5'3", 5'4", and she's been at me now for the last 20 minutes. She's going, just tell him next to you, Auntie Mary. Auntie Mary. And I'm going, why Auntie Mary? She says, just tell him Auntie Mary. I'm going, well, are you an auntie then? She says, well, I might be. She says, I'm a bit like his mother. I'm a bit stubborn. And I don't like being told what to do. And she says, he doesn't like being told what to do. She says, and he's just like me, he is. He thinks he takes after his dad. She says, but no, he doesn't. She says, he takes after me.
I know where that is now.
She says, he knows how to dig his heels in.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's got a very broad mind. And he's got a good pair of eyes. So he can see things that are happening, if you like, before they've been spoken about. And he says he always makes the right choices. Doesn't matter how difficult they are or how hard they are. He will always make the right choices. I do need to bring this gentleman in for you. I'm not sure who it is. I can't see him. But I've got an absolute blinding headache.
Thank you.
And this has caused his passing. So it's either it's some sort of head trauma that I've got with this gentleman.
I know where we are with him, yes.
Yeah. And he's coming in because he says, I am so proud of you. He says, in your spiritual life and in your earthly life, he says, you are you. He says, you've always been headstrong. He says, since you were 2 years of age. He says, and I'm not going to say anything about the Hillman Imp, the Ford Escort Mark 1, or the Vauxhall Chevette.
Close. Forenza.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't know. He says, I'm not saying nothing about them. He says, but the first two, he says, I'm sure he wasn't old enough to drive them. He says, and I know he didn't have a licence. He says, but hey ho, that was him. He says, he was always a law unto himself. He says, and we told him those tyres wouldn't fit on that bike, but no, he knew better than everybody else. But he comes in, as I say, with a lot of respect, with a lot of love. He's saying he would have given you guidance, but he doesn't need to.
Thank you.
You, on both your lives, are on the right track.
Thank you.
He says it's took you a while. He says, and you did a lot of fighting with your inner self, but then you saw your real inner self and went, what am I fighting for?
Yeah.
When it's telling me what to do. So he says, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Be proud. Be very, very proud. I know there's motorbikes somewhere associated with this gentleman also, because I'm not saying he was a Hell's Angel, but he's just showing me a leather waistcoat. It looks like a Hell's Angel badge on the back of it.
Yes.
But he's saying the nearest he'd get to a motorbike was his three-wheel trike that he had.
Yes.
He says, and if he wanted to get a motorbike now, he'd have to get a three-wheel trike. He says, the only thing is, he says, he's bad enough in a car. He says, so I hate to think what it'd be like on that. You going to get me in America? Okay. Do you remember these funny motorbike helmets that they wore on Easy Rider?
Yes.
He says, I've got to give you one of them.
Thank you.
From him.
Yes.
And he's put a specific sticker on the back of it, but he won't show me.
No, but I know what it is.
So as long as you know what it is. Right, I can't see it, but he's just showing me. He's put 2 lines from a poem or verse, handwritten, inside the helmet.
Yeah.
He says, and that will mean more to you than anything else.
Yeah, thank you.
So he's just showing me that as well. But there is a... Now don't cry. So it's getting very emotional now, because he says, I've been needing to tell him something different to what he's been getting from others. Mm-hmm. He says, and I hope we've done that tonight. And he's just so proud of you, so much love and so much support. And he says, the little boy in you is still the dominant force.
Thank you.
He says, and always will be.
I understand what that means.
That's a big one. It's a big one. Okay. I've got to put one of them on that finger.
Thank you.
Right. And he says it needs to stay there.
Yes, thank you.
Doesn't matter what other people think. He says it's what you two know.
Yes.
And that's all that matters.
Thank you.
And I'm going to leave all that with you. Say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now come to the lady there, please. I've got a lady stepping forward for you. Now, as this lady comes in, I feel very, very much a grandmother figure. She's quite a tall lady, 5'6", 5'7", and she's very, very softly spoken. She's saying, don't get me wrong. She says, I'm just like that one. If we need to raise our voices, we can make ourselves heard. She's also saying that, right, you don't let others know about what is happening in your personal life, and I'm not going to. But she says the last 18 months, forget COVID, the last 18 months in the family have been quite hard for you, and especially for you as an individual. But she says you've got through it. She says the most important thing is you've actually learned how strong you are. She says because you've been doubting yourself. And she says you should never doubt yourself. And she says your children respect you immensely, and they do not like to see you hurt, and they don't like seeing you upset. They won't always say it, I know that one will, but they're always aware when you're not you. So she's saying you're just about out of that tunnel now, and the grass is greener, and she says you've got a lot to look forward to. Whoever the gentleman is that's around you has been a rock, and he'll continue to be a rock. So much so, they're saying if one of you was to go missing, it'd be like losing your leg. You know, you just say, we're going round and round in a circle. So much for you to look forward to. The lady's also saying as well, she would like you to go back to when you were 15, 16, 17, 18 years of age, because she says you have lovely handwriting. And she says she'd like you to do some more of that writing. You have all the thoughts, but you should be putting them down. Because you have it in your head, it's there for 2 or 3 days, and you go, I ought to do, and it's gone. Yeah. So she says, as soon as you know, do it. Even if it's just rough, just make notes to remind you. And then it's about you now, as you have started doing, making time for yourself. And when you make that time for yourself, you can do this writing. Your writing, one, it will benefit you because it will give you a bit of peace and a bit of tranquility. But when you share them with others, it will mean so much to them. And this is what you need to do. There is a gentleman who puts his arms around you and he says, 1 in a million, that one. 1 in a million. And he loves you to bits. I've got to give you from him a single red rose, because he says she knows what that will mean. Okay. He says he was good, but he'd think twice about letting you have his last morning. He'd let you have his chocolate, but he likes his Murray mints. So he says, I might have to draw a straw with that one. Also with this gentleman as well, I'm getting a very strong smell of mints around him, but extra strong mints. And he's going, and why would people buy polos? He says, when you can get tree ball mints and get a full quantity for half the price. You don't look old enough, but from him to you, I've got to give you a packet of Spangles.
Oh, yeah.
And I've also got to give you Bazooka chewing gum. So it's just memory links from when we were a little one. And I've also got to give you Brussels sprouts and cabbage.
Yeah.
As long as I'm not going into why, but I need to give you that from him. But this gentleman, he's just showing you that you have come out of that tunnel. You have got so much to look forward to. And now you need to start enjoying life. You make sure everybody else is enjoying it. Now you may need to make sure you're enjoying it. And the more you enjoy it, the better life will be for you. And I'll leave all that with you. That's all right. Right. Go to the lady right at the back, please. As I'm with you, I've got... Yes, I know you're there. Okay. I've got 2 ladies stepping forward for you. There is a gentleman, because he's brought the 2 ladies in, and both ladies I know have got mobility issues, but they're saying just because we can't move very fast here doesn't mean to say there's nothing wrong with us up here. He says we can hear everything, we see everything, and we're not afraid to say everything as well. One of them can be quite outspoken, and she's saying she knew as much colourful language as the men did, and she said she wasn't afraid of using it. She says, but how the heck do you manage? She says, you should have been in A&E by now, because the amount of times you bite your tongue and bite your bottom lip, she said, you should have bled to death by now. But she says, you see everything that's going on around you, but a lot of the time you don't say anything. She says, but sometimes it really annoys you. She says, and you need to take a lesson out of their books in respect of, if you need to get it off your chest, get it off your chest, because it will only bring you down. It won't bring anybody else down. The other lady who comes in now, don't get me wrong, she's a strong character as well, and she does what she wants to do. I do feel with this lady that she had more mobility issues than the first lady did. And she's coming in around you, and she's going, they never had all these smart things when I was around, did they? She says, you can walk anywhere and pick anything up, she says, without even moving nowadays. She says, and I like these new wheelchairs. She says, you just sit in it, push the lever forward, and boom, you're down the street like nobody's business. She says, the only trouble is, if it was me, she says, I'd knock everybody over. She says, because my eyesight wasn't always the best. But she's why she's here around you, she says, you've been doing the right thing by resting and by looking after yourself, and it has made you very frustrated, but at the same time, it's given you a lot of opportunities to pursue different aspects of your life that you wouldn't have done if you'd have been so mobile. But she's saying within the next 5 to 6 weeks, life for you is going to get a lot easier and a lot better. And I'm saying, well, give me a clue. She's going, right. She says, your body doesn't like damp conditions. So she says the dampness will soon be disappearing. And when that does, then you can do your exercises and start getting out and about again. She says, I would tell you to go out in the garden. She says, but what is growing, you'd probably kill it anyway. So she says, but somebody will look after it for you. She's also saying as well about a ornament. She's saying you want an ornament as a tribute. She says, well, make it known what you want, where you want it from, and it will get sorted out for you. But when it gets there, make sure it's put where you want it, not where they think would be best. Because where they think would be best may inconvenience you. Maybe flowers growing around it that irritate your legs if you brush past them or whatever. So she's saying, just do it for you. Right, the gentleman who comes in, he just comes in and he puts his arms around you and he wants to give you a big kiss. And he says, yes, he was there on his anniversary. He says, and yes, he does be beside you most evenings. He says, and yes, we do chat to each other. He's telling me, though, to say to you, he's got his own record player and he can play his music as loud as he wants to. He says, and nobody's telling me any different. I'm going, well, who you on about then? He says, well, he says, I like a bit of Tommy Steele. He says, I like a bit of Bill Haley. He says, at times I like a bit of Elvis Presley and a bit of Gene Pitney. So, but he says he just likes blasting the people out. But he's saying as well, your mind is very active and your mind will continue to be very active. But he's saying you need to try to slow it down a little bit, because if you don't, your mind will be going at 90 miles an hour. These poor old things down here can only do 40 miles an hour, and this bit in here can only do 60 miles an hour. So he says you're going to get yourself frustrated. He says, and there's nothing worse than you frustrated. He says, because you take it out on everybody. And he's telling me, I don't know when it was, but he says, when his lordship's not at home and there's nobody else there, he says, you still take it out on me. He says, and I'm upstairs. But he says he wouldn't swap you for the world. And yes, he knows it's lonely. He knows the majority of the family have been very supportive, but that they can't always be there. But he says, you're getting there. And he understands it's a day at a time, a day at a time. But like he said to you, he doesn't want you dwelling on the past. He wants you to look to the future. Now, I don't know if it's you, or a daughter, but whoever's moved his photograph and replaced it with another one, he doesn't like the one it's been replaced with. He says, and can the old one be put back? And can it be facing into the room, not at the wall, because I can't see what's going on? And I'm going to leave his and the two ladies' love, support and respect with you and say thank you very much. And before I pass back to Nick, can I just say thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being back here with you all. Please, everybody, stay safe. Please continue to support Nick and his team. For all of you that's online, If you can't get in person, please continue, because everything makes it worthwhile for Nick and his team to keep the doors open. So thank you all very much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll pass you back to the maestro.
Bless you, sir. Well, let's just say it means I've got to redo the opening sequence, because I know which picture he's on about. Because little did anybody potentially notice, but I actually changed the photo of Dad on the intro sequence. And it's a... You have, but not far enough. You moved it, you didn't change it. This one was a complete change, and you know why he didn't like that one. And I'm not going there. But in that picture, he is actually facing away, whereas in the picture of me and him, we're actually facing into... So I've got to redo the sequence again! Oh, well, never mind. I can add a few more. Friends, a big Littleport thank you to John Ennis and friends! Well, I apologise for the technical issue. I'll take it home and charge it up longer this time. Honesty, got to be honest. Yeah, it didn't get enough charge, I would imagine, is the problem. So I'll take it home with me and plug it in all week so it's ready for next Thursday. But at least, we had Old Faithful to back up. Friends, we are now about to have our closing prayer. Our medium for next week is, however, though, Daniel Wright. It's been years, so it'll be nice to have Daniel back. So Daniel Wright back next week. Been a long time. So wonderful. And of course, we will be here with Beverly's biscuits and chocolates. And with Beverly's tea and coffee, actually, she's keeping the kitchen going from talking about helping from a remote distance. Beverly's kept the kitchen going since August. It's lovely. And we get very posh sweeties and posh biscuits, named after my boss, the boarder. If you're watching, Wendy. But there we go. Friends, thank you all for your endearing and continued support, both at home and here in what is my home on a Thursday night, and now I'm on the committee even more so when I'm out the back painting lines. Friends, let's join together and close in prayer. As we say, Great Spirit, Father, Mother, God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together as friends, to unite under your banner of love and hope and friendship, to witness your truth, that life is indeed eternal. As we go out into the world, I ask for a blessing to be placed on each person here present, both here physically in the hall and at home, and all those that they represent, that your web of love might shine wild and wonderfully across the world. And until we meet again, let us all live in love, in truth, and in light. Amen.
Amen.
Now, of course, I would be in big trouble if I did not, before we said goodbye to everyone at home, show them the wonder of what is this week's Bully's special prize. For this is Bully's special prize. Get ready for the screen grab. Print screen and good. And so that is this week's Bully's special prize. But of course, my friends, if you want to win Bully's special prize, you've got to be here. But until next week, we're going to see you all soon. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go and have a raffle and a tea and coffee and biscuits. Thank you, Beverly. And until next week, God bless and good night. Maestro, if you please.